Gergo Print 3D is back, making good on another one of my promises regarding Orca Slicer and Christian Vick's Klipper Additions. See, all Sovol printers come with their skinned version of Cura Slicer. Although I made multiple videos and posts on how you can upgrade to the latest version of Cura while keeping the official Cura printer profiles, I kept getting the question, what about Orca Slicer? Now, I understand all the commotion about Orca Slicer. It does many things better than even the latest versions of Cura. And in today's video, I'm going to show you what helped me switch, or rather, who helped me. So a big shout out to Christian Vick, whose Orca Slicer presets and Klipper Additions make the transition not only painless, but amazingly beneficial in terms of print speed and quality, and even in print noise. Let me first rave about the advantages of Orca Slicer in general, and give you a laundry list of all the benefits of Christian's Klipper Additions. I can totally understand if you want to get right to business though. You can skip ahead to this time code where we begin the detailed process of setting up everything. Coming from Cura, you should feel quickly at home in Orca. You'll find similar printer profiles and process profiles, but the third aspect, the filament profiles or presets as they are called in Orca, are much more accessible and comprehensive at the same time. In Cura, filament and process settings were much more mixed together, at least in the way I used Cura. In Orca, the separation is much clearer. We pick the printer, then the filament, and finally the process, which define the type, strength, and speed of the print. All three types of presets are also much easier to add to your slicer. We can easily import Christian's printers, filament, and various speed presets. You'll see how in the second half of this video. So, here are 7 highlights which pleasantly surprised me coming from Cura. First, the integration of the printer's web interface. Like Cura, it's just another tab in the slicer, but instead of showing only the webcam image, Orca gives us the full mainsail or fluid interface, or Octoprint if that's your system. 2. Per object settings. In Cura, this was so obscure I almost never used it. Here in Orca, it's much easier to access, and the settings are laid out the same way as the global process settings. It made multicolor printing of this chessboard a breeze, which I actually talk about in this recent video. 3. It's much easier to paint supports than hassling with the support blockers in Cura. We just paint red or green over surfaces of the printed parts, where we want or don't want supports, and these then move together with the object. 4. The lay on face feature is similar, but again easier to use, and the auto orient option actually came up with this genius orientation for the left side clipper screen bracket, which made supports not even needed for this print. I was very surprised. By the way, the model is linked from the description. 5. Talking about painting, the seam painter is something Cura still doesn't offer. It is a very intuitive way to move the seam line to the back of this trophy, for example, just painting the line where I want those seams to appear. 6. Other options not available in Cura lets us break multi-part objects into components. Moreover, we can print them partially. This came very handy when I worked on the prototypes of the Klipper screen case, where I could print these partial variants to check clearances while saving a lot of time and filament. The last feature I will highlight is the option to personalize our prints without the use of CAD software such as Fusion 360 or even Mesh Mixer. Adding text is magically simple, though making it engraved using negative parts was a bit trickier. Let me know in the comments If there is interest, we could dive deeper in any of these in a future video. And I haven't even touched on all the powerful calibration tools built right into the slicer, which will be a topic of an upcoming video. Let me warn you, getting a taste of all this power will make it very hard for you to go back to Cura. Christian not only facilitates the transition with his presets, but also offers a suite of macros to improve our Klipper experience. His start macro heats up the nozzle and bed parallel to each other in a way that they heat up not only quicker, but they reach print temperature at the same time to minimize oozing. The heat up time is also well utilized, doing an auto Z-tilt adjustment and even an adaptive bed mesh at the print temperature. And this is very important since our beds warp differently at different bed temperatures. And the Z motors go out of sync as soon as the motors are disengaged. Complete control over the purge line and the ingenious samurai move to get rid of any oozed filament are the cherries on the top. But the imprint experience will also be more pleasant, since he found a way to control both part cooling fans and even the extruder fan to keep noise at the minimum. In my recent M600 video, I showed you how the auxiliary fan only spins up for overhangs and bridges. Otherwise, it runs at much quieter speeds. One Cura plugin I was missing after switching to Orca is the ability to gradually slow down tall prints over a certain height. They were crucial in printing my tall dust covers and extraction storage tubes. Imagine, Christian added something better, since these gradual print speed adjustments can now be configured and reconfigured during an ongoing print. So if you see one of the tall dust cover parts having problems near the top, you can just enable this feature on the fly. You forgot to add a pause to insert those magnets into the chessboard? Christian even added a similar pause at height option, also adjustable at print time. His macros also enabled the exclude object option in Klipper, which is an amazingly useful safety feature when printing many parts at the same time. And starting with version 3, he has now added calibration tools also. So we no longer need to type in long commands to carry out rotation distance calibration or PID tuning or similar. Check out my advanced tuning video for what these are about. Just skip typing the commands. Use Christian's buttons instead. So, even if you were on the fence about switching to Orca before, I'm pretty sure you are now curious how to switch. It's not hard at all, and you can keep going back to Cura whenever you need it. I will show you now how to set everything up, where to download the necessary components from, how to install Orca with Christian's additions, everything that needs to be set on the printer, and finally, I will help you print the back half of a 3D Benchy to confirm all works well for you too. Yes, this involves a lot, but the timecodes and chapters below will hopefully help you navigate. All I'm asking in return is a click on the like button below and maybe even a subscribe. I promise no more than 2-3 videos a month. Gergo Print 3D will not take over your feed. So, we will start with the downloads. First, let's get Christian Vick's Orca presets from Printables. Link in the description of this video. We extract the presets in a temporary location where we can easily find them later. Next, we'll need Christian's Klipper Additions, also available on Printables. The latest version is 3.0 at the time of the recording, but Christian tells me the install process is not expected to change in the foreseeable future. extract his additions in the same temporary location where the Orca presets went. If you have the SV07 Plus or the SV06 Plus, I recommend also downloading Joe Scallon's build plate models from Printables. You'll need the STL and SVG files. Save them in the same temporary location where the rest of our downloads went. So now we are ready to download Orca Slicer itself from Softweaver's GitHub page, also linked from the description below. The latest version is 1.9 at the time of recording. Scroll down to find the version of your platform. If unsure, just get the Windows installer. With everything downloaded, we can install and open Orca Slicer. It might prompt you to download WebView runtime. Do it. Upon opening, a setup wizard greets us. So we click Get Started. Then we are prompted to select a printer. Regardless if we have an SV07 or a Plus or the Clipperized SV06 or Plus variant, we should just select SV07 at this point because it is the foundation for all four of Christian's printer profiles. We will select the specific printer later. We can uncheck the QD filaments and no need for the Bamboo plugin. In the file menu on top, choose Import Configs. And first, go to the printer subfolder. This is where we select the profile corresponding to our specific printers. I will select the SV06 Plus and the SV07 Plus since these are the printers I have. Then we repeat the import process, but this time we import the filament profiles, except maybe the ones you are not planning to use. And don't worry about the brands at this point. You can test the options that are given here and use whichever gives you better initial results. Then you will probably want to fine-tune them anyway. I actually plan to help you with that in a later video. Finally, we import all process presets as well. Now we go on to the Prepare page and select the CV variant of our printer. Let's check some of the settings. Click on the little Edit button next to the printer's name for this. There are a few things to change here, but only after we switch to Advanced. Notice how quickly we switch to Advanced, but that's how we can access the necessary settings. We can set the build plate image to Joe Scallon's media. Under Printable area, we click Set, load the texture, then load the model. Under Multi-Material, I set Manual Filament Change. You will see it in use in my recent video about printing multicolor first layers, for example, on the top of that chessboard. If you have a different type of nozzle installed in your printer, you can set it also here. Notice the option Auxiliary Part Cooling Fan. It is not checked even though the SV07 and SV07 Plus have these extra big fans, but Christian told me his Klipper Additions take better care of the aux fan than Orca Slicer could. Now, press the little disk icon to save these changes, and this is your chance to also change the name of your version of the printer. We will connect the printer. Make sure it's turned on. Then click on the Wi-Fi icon next to the printer's name and copy the URL to your preferred web interface in the URL field, the one that you're using currently in your web browser. And there's nothing else to set. Just test and OK. Maybe not up front, but don't forget to fine-tune your filaments, flow ratio, and max volumetric speeds for your specific brands. And be careful, the regular SV06, the smaller one, lacks the high flow nozzle of the other three. Here you will surely need to reduce the volumetric flow below 15 millimeters cubed per second. For the other three machines, Christian's SV07 volumetric flow settings are good starting points. Don't forget to save. Also note you can quickly switch between the filaments as you work with them without exiting this window. The rest we will do under the now activated Device tab on the top with direct access to the printer's web interface. Here, I can help you install Christian's Klipper Additions first using the main sail interface, but Fluid should be similar. Go to the machine page. Create a new directory. It's important to name it exactly like this, printer_additions, using the underscore character on your keyboard. Go into this newly created directory. When we click Upload File, we can select all the files in the Printer Addition subfolder in our temporary location. Find the file that starts with a bunch of underscore characters, right-click, and rename it to remove the part underscore template from the end. It's pretty important to have this name exactly. It's done this way, so updates to the additions later won't overwrite your preferences. Then we can double-click on this file to edit. Now be careful only to enable options for your actual printer, simply by removing the little semicolon characters in front of the lines. So, starting from the top, we can enable both bed mesh multiple and bed mesh area. This will just let us switch between the two approaches later. We will come back to selecting the correct one for both the SV07 Plus and the SV06 Plus in my case. Next, make sure Slicer Orca is selected. The other two printer settings can be disabled if you don't plan to use them with Christian's Klipper Additions. For printer features, only enable the SV06 or SV07 sections. Don't enable anything that doesn't match your specific printer model. On my SV07 Plus, I also enabled the 3 fan modules. These are SV07 specific. For the SV06, you shouldn't enable them. On the other hand, on my SV06 Plus, I also enabled the advanced tools because I like disabling the top ramming default option since I have my own gantry leveling method using the Z markers, you know. These Z markers are still relevant on clipperized SV06 and SV06 Plus printers. Of course, you are free to do Z-Sync any way you like. When done, just save your changes and no need to restart yet, because next we back out of the Printer Additions folder, and before editing Moonraker CFG, let's hide all the backup versions by clicking on the cogs icon and choose the option Hide Backups. It's just nicer to have a clean list. Now it's easier to find Moonraker CFG and double click on it. And we simply add the lines file underscore manager between square brackets and the line enable underscore object underscore processing colon space true. Make sure to leave at least one line free between this and existing lines in the file before and after. Then you can save. And the final step, we double click on Printer CFG to edit it. We go down to the line that says Save Config. Make a few blank lines above it and add the line opening square bracket include space printer underscore additions / underscore 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 module underscore loader dot CFG and closing square bracket. This will make sure the Klipper Additions are loaded when the printer is started. So now we can choose Save plus Restart. After restarting, we go back to the dashboard page and let's double check if really everything is loaded correctly. You should see the following message if the modules are correctly loaded. You will also see either a bunch of macro buttons, or you can organize them into groups as I did in the macro section of settings. I'll let you figure this out on your own. If you have any trouble, ask in the comments below. So the modules are now loaded, but we still need to enable the ones we want to actually use by clicking on the relevant buttons multiple times. Because the first time you press a macro button, the status window will show its current status. Then, when I press it a second time within a few seconds, that state can be modified. So for example, I put the purge line in the same left side as it is originally. See, I first click on it. It will show the purge line is set to front. Now I press it 2 times to adjust it. So it ends up set to the left. Then on both of my printers, I turned off prime spiral. It caused trouble for me. And also turned off prime slow. But enabled move to cleaning position, which I liked. You're free to experiment, try Christian's options. They are all well intended, maybe not all of them for all of us. For my SV06 Plus, I turned off preprint gantry calibrate, since the top RAM method is not good in my opinion. Instead, I like to check my Z markers from time to time. Of course, the gantry calibrate option will only be available if you've enabled the advanced tools in your module loader earlier at this time code in the video. Without gantry calibration, however, I opted to use mesh adaptive mode. This way, the mesh it creates before every print will take any Z misalignment into consideration. And adaptive mesh is a genius little thing because it doesn't scan the whole print bed, only the area where the actual part is going to go. There aren't many other options for the SV06. On my SV07 Plus, however, we have all these fan settings. I set fan hot end to full speed to avoid heat creep on long prints, but I set the other 3 to dynamic and leave the speed limits at 100% and timer at 180 minutes, 50%. These dynamic settings by Christian make sure these fans will be the quietest while providing the necessary cooling. On my SV07 Plus, I also enabled that iconic samurai move, which was unfortunately not compatible with the adaptive mesh on the SV06 Plus. But here on the SV07 Plus, preprint gantry calibration will be enabled by default, and it's good because these printers have independent Z motor drivers and can auto-level the gantry perfectly. And with the calibrated gantry, it saves time if we use mesh multiple mode. But these temperature-dependent meshes need to be created using the mesh create all temperatures macro. It will run for a while. With the default 8x8 grid setting, it took a little over half an hour for me. And while it's running, you should definitely ignore all the save config prompts on the Klipper screen along the way. Christian's macro will take care of saving at the end. Please note, all these settings, including the creation of all those temperature-dependent bed meshes, need to be only done once. From now on, everything is all set, and you can just enjoy your printer's new superpowers. In fact, let's quickly test everything. I will show you how to print half a 3D Benchy using Orca Slicer and the new additions. So for this, we go back to the prepare page, drag and drop the model on the build plate, click on the model and select cut, rotate the cutting plane, move the halves apart, select our filament preset, select our process profile. Let's just go with CV's conservative 200 millimeters per sec preset. Slice and send the print to the printer. Here, we will see the quick heating and all the preprint shenanigans Then, as the print starts, you'll notice the fans are not as loud. And one more treat, let's stop printing one of the halves. We can either press cancel print on the printer to see the exclude object menu, though I found this to be quite buggy on the Klipper screen. Instead, it's a better option to use this exclude object button on the web interface, on the device tab. So we exclude this half, and you can see only the other half continues to print from now on. Welcome to the finish line. I know this was a lot. Of course, you can go back, pause, or slow down the video until you get everything right. I give you all these chapters and time codes below to help you with that. I can assure you, you will not regret switching to Orca Slicer. Finally, just a small favor. Please make sure those like and subscribe buttons are clicked below, because you know, there's plenty more where this came from. So, another big improvement to our system. But now, let's go print 3D.